Hello everybody, happy Easter if you are religious, and happy Easter from my prison to your prison. As you all realize, most of the world is in lockdown. What does it mean? It means that you have no freedom anymore. It means that you agree that the government does this to you, whichever country you're in. You agree to be policed in this way, that you get a fine if you go out, you can get arrested in some places, all kinds of limitations. Let's not forget that there is a contract between the population and any government where you say, I give you the power to control me, but you give the power to control them, to control you. So basically, we are forced to stay at home in the name of the public health and public safety. We have accepted this a few weeks now because we didn't really know what was going on. Now, don't misunderstand this video. I know some people here have lost relatives and all kinds of connected people, family members, friends. I don't want to be misunderstood here. Now, we accept these limitations, but for how long and why? Now, these limitations of our freedom are pretty heavy and serious. This is not just a little lockdown or an emergency. Now, these measures are so tough. On the other hand, we don't see the governments, plural, some do, some don't, doing their share on their side. Just think about it. In many countries, the underground tubes are working. Airports are still functioning. Maybe cargoes of unnecessary shit going here and there. Cargoes of what? Some countries, like Italy, you get a huge fine for going out in the north. Last Thursday in Naples, or in the south, especially it was in Naples, this case, as an example, thousands of people went to look for traditional Easter foods like fish and stuff like that. So on one hand, you're telling people stay in prison at home. On the other hand, you don't send the riot police to clear these people who are shopping without respecting the guidelines, shopping for fish. Now, they used to tell us they can't pursue criminals in Italy because lack of forces, lack of petrol even, lack of funds. But suddenly they have all the money to chase people on the beach when he's jogging. Thousands of liters of petrol for police now to patrol empty roads, but they can't get rid of a idiotic mob buying fish. I mean, in a big city like Naples, how long does it take for the riot police to intervene with, I don't know, water cannons, anti-riot gear, and get rid of these people? Now, if it was really the case where the population is at higher risk of dying Wouldn't they close the undergrounds, get rid of these people shopping for, 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 for futile reasons? They would, but they don't do it. Another example. If it was really this serious, would any government allow people to go into a supermarket, even if with one by one or three at a time, without having representatives of the health ministry or the military health department monitoring what is going on in these supermarkets with stringent rules? I suppose there would be, but it's not happening. So the government, most governments, ask us to sacrifice our freedom like this, but on the other hand, they don't do their part. There is a big discrepancy there, I think. They're not doing a serious job. They're not doing a proper job. Another question for you, if you have some answers. We all know that there are flus all the time. All the time. And these flus come in phases. Now, the pandemics, flu pandemics, always follow the same pattern. They normally go in the west from December to March in the winter. According to the World Health Organization, 2005, the directives after the Hong Kong cases in 2003, they put some guidelines which countries are supposed to follow. Now I have it here. You can have a look. This is from the Italian Health Ministry. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, 4, 5, 6. So what goes on here? Phase 1. You can download these anywhere. Phase 1. I have to translate it, so be patient. There is no new subtype of virus isolated in man. And a flu subtype that has caused infection in humans could be present in animals. If present in animals, the risk of infection or sickness to the human is considered low. This is in the interpandemic period. That means in the period between one pandemic and the next one, because they come all the time. Phase 2 of the interpandemic period. No new subtype of virus has been isolated in humans. Anyhow, the circulation of flu viral subtypes amongst animals poses a threat of sickness, substantial threat of sickness to humans. Period of pandemic alert, phase 3. The infection is in the human with a new subtype of virus, but without transmission from human to human. Maximum thing it says here is the virus tries, rarely still, to transmit itself between tight contacts. Be patient and translating. Phase 4. Small clusters with limited interhuman transmission and highly localized spread that indicate that the virus is not well adapted to humans. Small clusters. Phase 5, big clusters. This is what we are seeing in my hometown. But with limited interhuman spread, indicates that the virus is improving his adaptability to humans, but is not yet fully transmissible. And there is a concrete risk of pandemic, I suppose. Pandemic period. Phase 6. Heightened and prolonged transmission in the general population. This is now. Post-pandemic period. Return to inter-pandemic period. So, what can we understand from this? Well, I got fed up of reading bullshit, listening to bullshit. You just use what they gave you at school, verify the information. So, we understand that during the year, when there's no flu, it's called inter-pandemic period. Like the monsoons, inter-monsoon, same thing. So basically, you just come out of a pandemic and you're waiting for the next fucking pandemic. Okay. Let's go to the next document that I found. Not because I'm clever, just normal. Istituto Superiore della Sanità, not some blogger conspiracy theorist blog or video. Characteristics of the patient who were positive and died from COVID-19 in Italy. The data is up to the 9th of April 2020. The website is the Superior Institute of Health, Istituto Superiore della Sanità. These are the people who come every evening on TV, or the people who do have this data, and tell you what is happening in the country at the moment, every day. Let's see. Sample: 16,654 patients dead and positive from COVID, Italy. Not died from COVID. People who died and were also positive. Here we are. Lombardia, which is the hardest hit. They had 9,731 people died, which represents, I hope you can see it, I don't know, 58.4% of the people who died in Italy were from Lombardy. I can't remember the number of the phase, but I think phase 4 or 5. Big clusters. Number 2, Emilia-Romagna, 13.3. Piemonte, 7.3. Veneto, 4.5. And the rest, the other 20 or whatever, 17, are 3, 2, 1, 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, 0.6. In Campania, 0.7. 0.7. Demographic data. The average age of people who died and were positive to COVID-19 is 78 years old. Median is 80. Women are quite lucky here, is around 33%. Now, the people who actually died are 15 years older compared to the people who had it but didn't die. So here you are. Diagnosed, the average is 60. The dead, the average is 80. So here you are. 80 to 89 is the highest, 6,711. 90 plus, of course, they're not going to be many because not many live up to there. But 70 to 79, you can see. Men, women. Now this is the most interesting one, in my opinion. Pre-existing pathologies. So in this table down here, you have the statistics of the people who died. So I'll go through it, then I'll show you, otherwise I get confused here. Okay, the average number of pre-existing pathologies of the people who were positive and died, who died and were also positive, the number of pathologies average is 3.3. It means, on average, the people who died and were positive had an average of 3.3 other sicknesses. 51 patients had 0 previous pathologies. 51 patients. 215 people, which represents 14.8, had 1 previous pathology. 301 people had 2 pathologies, that is 20.7%. And, open your ears, 886, which represent 61%, had 3 or more previous sicknesses. So, if you take the 61% of people who had 3 or more previous health problems, and you add the people who had 2 previous illnesses, it makes 82%. So, of all the people who died, 82% had 2 or more, even 4, because don't forget the average was 3.3, previous pathologies. So, what pathologies did these people have? Well, this is going to be difficult for me to translate, but stuff like active cancer in the last 5 years, chronic kidney problems, diabetes mellitus type 2, hypertension, ictus, that means ischemias, cardiopathic ischemias, fibrillazione atria, heart problems, dementia, autoimmune problems. So not only 1, 3 or more. The average is 3.3. So they have 3 or 4 of these. 83% of 82% of these. Okay, so here is the table. I'm not lying to you. Epicentro, ISSST. Here you are. Total deaths, 0 pathologies, 51 people, 3.5%. 1 pathology, 14.8. 2 pathologies, 20.7. 3 or more pathologies, 61%. There you are. I hope you can see it. Okay, let me read. Symptoms, just for your information. The common symptoms: fever, 76%. Dyspnea is difficulty in breathing, and cough. Those make up the symptoms. Now the complications, in 96.7 of the cases it was insufficient breathing, and the second 23.5 is the damage to your kidneys, and too much infection or other infections on top is 11%. So 96.7 have breathing problems. That's how they died. They couldn't breathe anymore, basically. And it's quite fast, because the average from getting the symptoms to dying is 10 days. So from the symptoms to the hospital is 5 days, and from the hospital to, if unfortunately you die, is 5 days. So it's pretty fast. The last paragraph here is how many died aged below 50. So there are 197 people to the 9th of April who died who were under 50. 1.2%. 1.2% of the patients who died and had corona were below 50. In addition, 44 of these 197 people were below 40. The 7 patients below 40, we don't have clinical information, they say. The other 29, they had serious, very serious pre-existing pathologies. Cardiovascular, kidney, psychiatric, diabetic, and obeseness. And 8 did not have any relevant pathologies. So those were the characteristics of the people who actually, and the numbers of the people who actually died. Let me check something else. Info data. Now this is Lombardy, north of Italy, Lombardy. As you can see, big clusters, phase 4 or 5, doesn't really matter. This is Lombardy. Now, we have seen that the rest of Italy has nothing to do with this, nowhere near this. We're talking about 1.7, 0.2, 0.3 in the rest of Italy. So basically, only here. Only here. Now, the other document I want to show you is the procedures suggested by the World Health Organization, not suggested, and implemented by all nations in accordance to this. We also have it, and this is what the Italian government, for example, has been following strictly. They're doing exactly what it says here as a response to pandemics. Procedures. So it is correct to quarantine people, it is correct to do all these things, shut down businesses, waiting period for so it goes down and blah blah blah. So it's low. It's maybe 75 pages of procedures and actions to take, and they have been doing this. So if you followed me in any way, I supported the decisions of the Italian Prime Minister and government. But as I said at the start, if you're going to limit the freedom of the people in this way, you have to have the counterpart, i.e. the government, showing you that you're actually serious about it, not letting the fucking tubes run and the buses and the supermarkets without control and with this fake bullshit distancing. If it's serious, it's serious. It means you do not go out and there's people fully dressed like in the films, Contagion or whatever, I haven't even seen it, fighting this to stop it. But we don't see this. It's only on our part. We're the only ones who make the effort. Now, yesterday, so they are following all the procedures, and I support this. Supported until a few days ago when I started using what's between the ears, because it stinks. So I did my research. I'm showing you what I saw. Now, these procedures are for influenza pandemics. Now, there are different viruses. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a virologist, but I understand that these procedures make sense. The scientific community indicates these, and it's intelligent. What is not intelligent is to apply them to something which is disproportionately low. Now, yesterday I cut, my dirty feet have been walking in the sand, but yesterday, I hope you can see this little cut. You see this little cut. Now, in theory, I kicked a piece of coral on the beach. It was dirty, dusty, muddy piece of coral. In theory, I should go for my theory, I'm not a doctor. In theory, I should go for an anti-tetanus jab. I should be disinfecting it twice a day. Maybe I should have a short course of antibiotics, maybe a 3-day course, just so that I don't get any bacteria there or an infection. Now, do you think that I should do this? Shall I go now to the hospital for a anti-tetanus jab? For this? Just for this? For this? Shall I go for this? Or do you think it would be a knee-jerk reaction, or I would be taking disproportionate action compared to the actual damage that I have on the foot? Next question. Considering that this is normal, don't you think that in the same way the response to this corona, don't you think it's disproportionate? Now, I agree with my government to lock us up a couple of weeks to see what's going on. Nobody will take a responsibility of millions of people if this was a real aggressive, lethal virus of saying, okay, it'll be okay, and then if it's not okay, well, So we can understand that humanly. Nobody will sign that paper. So we accept it. But until when? Until we get into the inter-pandemic period and we're waiting for the next pandemic, and when it comes, you're going to lock us up again? When is it going to end? Never, because this goes on all the time, every year. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I expect you to write your comments, tell me I'm stupid, whatever you like. But if you're going to say something, please bring me something to show me that I'm wrong. And if you can, refrain, please, refrain from the 5G stories and the New World Order and all this Orwellian theory, and keep the politics out. You can answer, let me know. Show me some more data even, and I'll be happy. And I don't want the people who have suffered because of this to get angry. There's nothing to get angry. We're all human, and these unfortunately get translated into numbers, and the numbers tell stories. So I don't want anyone to misunderstand this. I respect all the people who are grieving and everything, but I just want to know what you think, because to me now this lockdown does not make any more sense. We will be on our knees, maybe even, I wouldn't say forever, because nothing lasts forever, but this cannot go on. Use your head.